All right, so Monique, that's done. Hopefully that helped. Expanding and stacking unconscious moments. Was that you, Ivan? That asked? No? Who asked about that?
No, it was me.
Paul. What do you mean by stacking and expanding? Give me an example.
You were talking about in one of your videos about analytical clients and how to get them to go into, help them to go into trance. You talked about looking for lots of small UMs and then stacking them up into one big one. I was just wondering how you did that.
Yeah, so all I'm doing is if I'm only noticing very quick and small unconscious moments, I'm just trying to follow the tail of each unconscious moment. That's how you progressively stack them. So if the position of those unconscious moments, there's one here, there's one here, and there's one here, I'm just trying to guide, or for lack of better words, guide the conversation to keep going along that tail to hit all those unconscious moments in a row. I'm trying to keep the conversation where the unconscious moment is, rather than them go off topic. And over time, that'll stack to one big one where it'll collapse over and they'll have this transformation. That's how I'm doing that. Very analytical clients, you've really got to listen to what they're saying because you probably won't see a lot of unconscious moments. You're going to hear it. Does that make sense? Just always chasing the tail.
Scott, can I just ask, is that when you do things like, say, I wonder what scratching your head has to do with whatever the other unconscious moment was that they had that you noticed. Is that when you do that kind of linking? Is that doing that?
It could be part of that. But I'm only doing that when they're in trance because otherwise consciously it won't make sense. They'll go, well, it doesn't have anything to do with each other. But when they're deep in like an ETM, they'll go, I think it means this. And you think, that doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to you. That's how that gives me another idea that yes, you are in that place where scratching your nose constantly has something to do with your child abuse. Logically, it makes no sense. Okay, nothing. It can't be connected. But unconsciously, it makes a lot of sense because it's happening. So what I'm doing with, again, analytical clients is, if you want a client to think more abstract, you've got to ask abstract questions. So you've got to take out a lot of the filler. So I could pose two questions right now. One to be very conscious and I get a conscious answer. One to be very unconscious. I'll get an unconscious answer, ideally. So a conscious question would be, just trying to think of one off the top of my head. So a conscious question might be, I wonder how quitting smoking will help change your life for you and your kids. There's a lot of information there, okay? It's probably not the best example, but it's just off the top of my head. So you quitting smoking, I wonder what that'll do. You still see it's the same question, but I'm leaving it more open-ended. There's not as much conscious information for the conscious mind to grab onto. It's too abstract. Does that make sense? Not the best example, but it's a better example when it comes more naturally. But does that make sense? So if you're working with more abstract, more analytical clients, try your best to be rather abstract with your questions, because that should open them up. I always say, if you want a conscious answer, ask a conscious question. If you want an unconscious answer, ask an unconscious question.
Scott, would another way to say that would be just like almost being vague in a sense?
Same thing, yeah.
Where they're filling it in?
And that's the point. They're filling it in.
Yeah.
So another abstract question is when a client says, well, Ivan, you know, I'll always be broke because my parents were broke and I'll never get paid clients and my business sucks. An abstract response to that would be, that's very Ericksonian. Or to look away and go, interesting. And just wait. That's very abstract. You can feel the pressure of that.
Yeah.
So now I'm having them fill it in. Rather than, how did you get to that understanding? Why do you think this? How does that? It's too conscious. They're just going to give me more excuses.
And even you doing that, Scott, I felt like I wanted to talk then too.
That's the point. You want to fill in the information, not me. That's why I say at the end of the strategy call, give your price and shut up. Don't talk. Let them talk next. Let them fill in the silence. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that's, I think we'll talk about expanding unconscious moments, but analytical clients, that's my best guess. If you find on the opposite, your clients are so abstract, like just off into their own little world, you might have to bring them back a bit to get more clarity. So you're going to have to become very analytical. Because otherwise I could say, hey, Justin, what do you want out of this session? Scott, I want everything. I can't quantify everything. So I might have to pull him back and get specific. Because otherwise everything could mean a long time together. Does that make sense?
Can you give an example of that, Scott? Being more specific to bring them back?
As in?
Like if they're so open-ended, like they want everything in a session, how are you sort of questioning them to bring it more specific to what they want, as an example?
Yeah, what do you mean exactly? See what I'm doing?
Sorry?
See what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I'm just
throwing it back on me.
I'm just trying for you to clarify, what do you mean? I know exactly what you mean, but I'm just asking clarifying question. What do you mean? Can you give me an example? Yeah. What would that look like? What would that feel like? How do we know we've got there?
Excellent.
I just want everything, Scott. Well, give me an example. Well, I just want to lose 1 kilo. Great, let's start there. That's not everything, but let's start there, because that might be all that they need. But and again, it always comes back to, that's what I mean. You don't market your business as, I can change your life. That's too abstract. It can't be quantified. It'll happen regardless, the way we do ACH, but you've got to start something. There has to be parameters. Got to know where to start. Because then I interpret, or let's say, for example, client says, I want to feel more love. Love's abstract. Love's a metaphor. What does love mean to them? They might say, well, love to me is having 12 kids with 13 different husbands. Cool, let's try that. But love to me might be something so different. So I might be going down and trying to work on my own presupposition, what love is to me, and I keep hitting a dead end. That's why. So when your client uses words like love, happiness, change my life, that's abstraction. We have to quantify, what does that mean to them? And what's crazy is most people don't even know. And then they go to a place of not knowing, and that's a good place, isn't it? Because they go, oh, yeah, what is love to me? Bang, they're in. Stay there, figure it out. Well, love to me is about connection to the universe. So if you had more connection, what does that do for you? There's a math question. Oh, and I just keep drilling them to the point where they start feeling it. That's what we'll do tomorrow with math questions. But abstraction, get clarity. Some people say, I want to be happy. Why? Because my guru says I need to be happy. What do you want it for then? What does it mean to you? How would you know? I don't know. I've never felt love. How do you know you want it? I just feel it. Where do you feel it? Oh, I feel it in my stomach. ETM. My client, and again, this is what we'll talk about tomorrow with Mac. Your client starts telling you what they need. Your clients will tell you when they need an ETM. Your clients will tell you when they need ACH. Your clients will tell you when they need Mac. You've just got to listen. But it's very hard to do that if you're too busy doing this. Make sense, Ivan?